everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meet the Light. Today, I have a beautiful guest with me, Meesh Carra. Hello, Meesh. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So, Meesh is a psychic medium and a spiritual life coach. She guides others to connect with their gifts and navigate life's energies with clarity and purpose. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And so, let's just dive right in and get started talking about you. Why don't you tell us a
Sure.
little bit about your background and how you came to where you are now with being your job or your service to the world as a psychic medium and intuitive life coach?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, I'm Mish, short for Michelle. Originally coming from a very small farm town in middle of Massachusetts. And I always felt a little bit different, always felt a little bit like an outcast. And I wanted to understand the psychology of people. So I got my bachelor's degree in psychology, pursued that, and with the intention of going full research. But I wanted to take one gap year, one singular gap year. So I decided I was going to move to the furthest place away from home, which was a little island in the South Pacific called New Zealand. So I spent a year there understanding myself a little bit better, understanding the art of meditation, which I had never heard of before. Took my first yoga class. And we're at a stage now where I haven't stopped traveling. So it's been 10 years and I have visited 40 countries in the process.
Wow.
And through that adventure, I have worked with so many different disciplines of spirituality. I have worked with Buddhist monks in Thailand. I studied at a Buddhist temple. I went to Peru, to the Amazon rainforest to do a full medicine ceremony with the Shipibo tribe. We worked through ayahuasca, and that helped me uncover purpose. It brought up my gifts from when I was a child. And so, understanding and tapping into these intuitive abilities, and now I live in Cape Town, South Africa, where I'm currently studying family constellations, which is actually a Zulu practice, which is indigenous to this part of the world. And so I've taken a little bit of spirituality from all different disciplines and have been able to create this space where I'm able to share my gifts and also create a community of people who are also sharing their gifts and understanding their spiritual journey.
Well,
So
very
yeah, currently
nice.
living in South Africa.
Very nice. So New Zealand, New Zealand is a beautiful, beautiful area. I have
Yeah.
not actually been there myself, but I do have a friend that's doing wonderful work in New Zealand. So I get to see all the beautiful pictures and just connecting with
Yeah.
nature and all of
Yep.
that. So that was a great starting point with all that, right?
Ah,
So tell me a
totally.
little bit about, it sounds like that you had some of these gifts in early childhood. Is that right? And can you go into that a little bit? And did you understand what they were? Kind of go through that process.
Yeah, of course. So when I was a child, I used to always say that there was people in my closet. And so even to I'm 32 years old and I still keep my closet doors open. Um but I told my parents that I always felt like there was a presence around me or that someone was in my closet. And I used to, as a child, be very fearful of the dark. I would always have a nightlight, like most kids, but I always just felt like there was someone else in the room with me. And after hearing you watch too many scary movies, I had a bit of a chaotic childhood, so that also played into a little bit of insecurity and difficulty adjusting. So I just let it go. And then after years, I just kind of had intuitive feelings like just feeling presence around me, but I didn't know what it was. And I just thought that was part of being human. So I just let it go. And I just assumed that it was a part of just, yeah, the human experience.
Hmm. Yeah. And you've traveled to many countries. So
Mm.
what was some of your experiences there? What would be you say what would you say would be your most profound experience? What country was it? And what were you doing?
Yeah. I would say probably the ayahuasca ceremonies in Peru. So I went to a very small little, in the middle of the woods village called Nauta, which is just a few hours from Iquitos, which is the major city to the Amazon in Peru. And I was in a community of 12 other individuals who were in ceremony with me. There was 6 facilitators and 3 shamans, 2 males and 1 female. And they were part of the Shipibo tribe, and they were working with ayahuasca through a medicine journey for each individual person. So we, as a collective, in 2 weeks, spent 2 weeks in the jungle, in the jungle, and we went through 4 ceremonies as a group. And through that experience, my intention for that ceremony was to understand purpose. Because prior to that, I had been working in sales jobs, I had been working the corporate life, and it just didn't feel like I was living with a mission and a purpose. It wasn't to make someone else more money. So through that journey was when I said, I want to understand my purpose here. So a lot of really deep, deep practice, meditation, mindfulness, and these ceremonies. After the ceremonies, I still hadn't figured it out. I'm like, I don't get it. What is my purpose? Like, I was supposed to get a sign or a signal, nothing. But then it was a couple months later where I started getting those same feelings as I got as a child, where like there was a presence around me. And I'm like, why is this happening again? And then through deeper connection with people who are willing to allow me to practice in that space, I understood that, oh my goodness, I can speak to people who have passed on. I can speak to people who are considered spirit guides. And that was my purpose, the purpose of communicating with those who've already passed on. So that's when the purpose became a part of me again.
I see.
Mm.
So you did work the corporate world. Is that how you were able to experience so many different countries?
I was. So there was a couple of different ways that I did this. So one of the ways I used to work as a travel agent. So I used to travel. The agency sent us on trips. So we got to explore. Mostly Europe was the location they sent us. So that was one way. Another way, I worked as a nanny. So in both New Zealand and London, I worked as a nanny. So worked full time with their children and lived with the family as well. So that supported my ability to travel too. And then I worked really hard in sales. So for an entire 2 years, I committed to working as hard as possible because I had this vision of a backpacking trip across Southeast Asia, and I needed to save $20,000. I don't know why $20,000. I just knew that that's what I needed to save. So after 2 years and a lot of good commission checks, I was able to separate myself from the corporate world and just travel across Southeast Asia for an entire year. $20,000 got me everything that I wanted: a scuba diving certificate, 2 scuba diving certifications, 6 countries, and a lot of incredible experiences. But it's all been a little bit of just serendipity happening for me to get me to travel as so much.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, don't you love it when that happens?
Oh, it's the best. It's truly, and it might even also be just minor experiences. So I read the book, The Celestine Prophecy. I don't know, have you ever read it before?
I have not, no.
No, great book. But it speaks of essentially being present and allowing the experiences to unfold in front of you. So this character travels to Peru and just allows every experience to unfold in front of him. And so I also did the same thing. I flew to Peru and allowed the experiences to unfold for me. And that's just kind of how I've always traveled, is just with a sense of intuition and knowing I need to go there. I don't know why, but I need to go there. And that's also what led me to live here in Cape Town, South Africa.
Yeah, so how long have you been in Cape Town?
2 years now. I came here for a conference in November of 2022,
Mhm.
and I loved it so much that I wanted to figure out how to stay. So serendipity once again led me to this organization that I volunteer for here in South Africa, and they have signed off on my papers to allow me to stay here for the next 3 years.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So you do have family back in the US because we talked a couple weeks ago, right? So you make visits back here to visit with your family sometimes?
I do. Yeah. I've made it an effort every single summer. My niece, who is, I would consider my soul child, she is my sister's daughter. And my sister is someone who's so important to me that when she had her daughter, Gia, we have such a close connection that I was so closely connected to her, and her birthday is July 25th, and I promised her the day I was born that I would be there for every single birthday. She
Oh,
just turned 8 this year, so not only am I making an effort for my family, but it's really for my soul child so that I can be with her for every birthday.
oh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So being in Africa, have you found your tribe there? Are your friends very intuitive? What tell us a little bit about your life experience in Africa.
Yeah, I really love how Africa is, specifically in South Africa, it's such a blend of cultures. I mean, most people don't even know that South Africa has 11 official languages. And
Mhm.
the fact that they have 11 official languages speaks so truly to how much they're able to still keep a lot of indigenous practices. And one of those practices, which is by the Zulu people, is family constellations. So I went to a family constellation workshop a couple of months ago. And that's when I started developing my tribe here, my tribe of energy workers, spiritual workers, and also connecting with people to understand the practices that are only shared in South Africa or in this general part of the world. So I found my initial tribe just through connecting through women. That has always been my important to me because I grew up very alone and I grew up I was a bit uncomfortable around girls growing up because they were just like, I don't know, they were just mean. And so I set my intention. I did this almost 3 years ago. I set my intention to create a community of women that I feel like I can lean on and create a sense of nurturing and caretaking. So it's been mostly female friends that I've made here in South Africa. And through that process, that led me to my spiritual community, which is always ever growing.
Mhm. So, there's always truth in any sort of a weaving of truth in any sort of things that we seek out. So now
Mm.
that you've explored over 40 different countries and different ways of spirituality, different sorts of ceremonies, what are you gaining from all this? And are you putting your own story together to understand your truth?
Yeah, I've just been so lucky to have this experience, but I also know that this is what I was meant to do. This is exactly how I experience life. My degree in psychology and sociology taught me to understand culture from a non-judgmental perspective and to take the parts of it that I identify with. So when I went to Thailand and understood Buddhism, I understood the parts of Buddhism that I wanted to take away, which is meditation, mindfulness, awareness, attachment, and releasing attachment. It's taken me places like Peru, where I'm going into the jungle and I'm working with native tribes who live off the land, and me being more conscious of what I'm consuming into my body,
Mhm.
because the land is going to be the one that heals me in any of these scenarios. And I think what's been so nice because I firsthand have experienced them, I can then share it with other people from a firsthand perspective. And
Mhm.
I can take all of these modalities and put it into my own reflection of the world. So when I do readings, when I do energy work, I'm not just pulling in my guides, I'm pulling in the guides that I have met in physical form and those people that follow along with them too. So I have my guides of the Amazon, I have my guides of the Zulu people, I have my guides of Buddhist monks, and I feel like these modalities have given me such a an appreciation for not having, growing up Catholic. I also have that as well. Appreciate it. Don't follow along as much as I used to as a child, but having all these different perspectives then gives me a more rounded experience. And now I'm understanding the Quran more through from some friends who are Muslim, which I've never had friends who are Muslim before, just growing up in middle of nowhere, Massachusetts. It gives me a different perspective, but also makes a collection of ideas, and yeah, it creates a sense of non-judgment for whatever people believe in. It's just a form of acceptance that your moral compass is a combination of all the experiences you've had too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What would you say the number one takeaway is of all of that combined experience? What would you tell people?
Yeah. I would say in all disciplines, in all categories of religion, spirituality, cultural expectations, this idea that there is, like Eckhart Tolle says, the power of now. Because we all understand that there is a greater power in place, whether you believe it's Allah, Krishna, Buddha, the universe, higher power, whatever that may be. It's the idea that in the present moment, you have that power, you have that ability to remain only in what exists in front of you. Because fear exists outside of you, but what you have in front of you is everything that your intuitive mind, or let's not call it mind, your intuition, period, has to offer for you. So by living in the now, you're giving yourself every single opportunity that the present moment is meant to give to you, as opposed to living outside of the present moment where those experiences are an imagination. They actually don't exist. The past existed, the future will exist, but there's so many timelines that come into play that by living in the power of now, you're gaining everything that you're meant to in this very moment.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say if I live by a book, a Bible, a handbook of life, it would be the power of now.
The
Mm,
power of now. Yeah, that is really powerful. And
yeah.
talking about feeling the presence, feeling that's what I feel whenever I am present and in the now moment. You can feel that you are here, you can feel the energies, you can feel everything that you need. Oftentimes, whenever we go on our spiritual journey, we're always seeking more and more and more and more.
Yes.
And at some point, you stop and realize, wait a minute, I have what I need.
Hmm. You have what you need all along. There's
All along,
no
all
There's
along.
no lack. There's no lack. If you desire it, it will come to you. And when you need it, it's available to you always. It's just the belief of staying in the now. And that's where all energy work exists too, right? Being in the present moment with our clients and with our friends or family. It's all existing in the now.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So what would you say? I mean, I know what my answer to this would be, but I want to know what your answer would be.
Yeah.
At what point do you stop seeking on the outside for more and more information and just realize, you know, that I've learned, or do you think that there's always more to learn?
Mm. I mean, there's definitely always more to learn because that's why the human experience is, at the temporary length that it is.
Mhm.
I think when I was taking those 10 years of traveling, I was looking outside of myself. I was very much looking outside, wanting to have more experiences, wanting to visit more countries, wanting to understand and wanting to explore, and it was very action based. It was very much, I needed to learn more from the outside. But when I came to Cape Town after, yeah, 8.5 years of being on the road, I was tired. I was exhausted. I was just ready to slow down and nest and feel a sense of safety and security that comes with being in one place. And I think that there is so much that can be learned by just the silence. just the quiet. And I hadn't let that happen for 8 years because I'm talking to new people, I'm experiencing new things, and, I'm digesting all of this information. But really, a lot of what I was seeking then was absorbing, and now it's just nurturing it. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, I learned that experience. How can I apply it? Or I've learned that experience. What does that mean for me so that I can give it to the next person? I think we can always continue learning, but it's kind of like reading one of the self-help books. It's one thing to read a self-help book, and it's another thing to read the self-help book and then actually apply it. And so what I'm doing now is the application. That was all the reading, 8 years of reading, but now I'm applying it. And it may come to another point where I want to read again, but I feel like I've gained enough in a period of time that I have a bit of time to apply and just really sit with what I've learned in the past, yeah, 8 years or 32 years, really, but more
Yeah.
so the past 8 years.
I love what you said there. That's so true. People, you can read a book, but applying it into life is really, really where you get the most
Totally.
experience, the most learning, the applying it, seeing what happens in your reality, applying it, seeing what happens in your reality. And
Exactly.
oftentimes when you find those books that are really, really give you some nourishment, and then
Mm,
you grow, and then you go back and read it, you just keep getting more from it.
yeah.
So I think that's the one thing people um, sometimes don't often apply in their life is read it again because you've changed and you're going to get a deeper meaning from what you've already read.
Yep.
Do you see
Yeah.
yourself doing that as well?
Oh my goodness. So it's so funny you say that. So there is one book that I read every single year, and I've been reading it every single year for the past, I think, 6 or 7 years now,
Mhm.
is The Alchemist
Oh,
by Paulo Coelho. And it's a fiction, but there's a deeper meaning behind the alchemist living in the present moment and experiencing everything that happens in order to find what he considers his treasure. And I read this book every single year, and every single year, something else clicks. I may have just passed right by it the following year. I may have just thought, like, oh, this is so insignificant. But then the year that I am experiencing, that chapter just means so much more to me. And then once again, it's the application of being the alchemist. So yeah, The Alchemist is something I read every year, and I encourage everyone. It's a very short read, it's very easy, but it's so unbelievably profound that even after having read it 6 or 7 times now, it still feels like I'm reading it for the first time.
Mhm. Well, that's
Mm,
good. That's good.
yeah,
Yeah. There's so many great books out there. So
there
many
are.
books that you can get such a deep meaning, to apply to your
Yeah,
life. So tell us
totally.
a little bit about what you do now. So the psychic medium,
Mhm.
um, how do you start a session with someone? How does that go? Can you provide maybe a profound session that you had? Um,
Yeah, definitely. So to start out the experience, I always clear the space. I use Palo Santo, which is native to the Amazon, which I feel like where the root of my mediumship was reintroduced to me. So I use Palo Santo to clear out the space. I clear out the space by smudging around the windows, around doors, and I close off the room entirely just so that way I'm not connected to any like big appliances because I've noticed electricity does also make a very similar sound as mediumship. And so I close off the room and then I go into a state. This is usually 15 minutes before I have a reading. I'll go into a state of complete blankness because what I want to do is I want to receive information from their guides without the assumptions or preconceived notions or judgments that I may have as Mish, the human being who's had 32 years in this experience. So I go to this blank space, I clear all the energy, anything that I've held on to for the day, I let it go. For the next hour, I'm only going to focus on my client and allowing them to come forward so I can allow their guides to come forward. And then I will have the client come on. We set an intention for the session. So I calm them down into a space of mindfulness. I welcome those in who do decide to step forward to offer guidance, support, understanding, love, and always coming from light. We think about our intention together, myself and the client. We don't say anything out loud. I prefer they say nothing at all because I don't want my judgments to come in. And then we tap in. So women come in on my left side, men come in my right, the divine feminine, divine masculine, and I just speak for them. So I might see colors, pictures, messages, names, dates, um, items. Sometimes I might have experiences that will be just related to guidance. Some will be experiences of wanting to know that there's closure and that this person is at peace. The profound part about a lot of these readings is that a lot of the guidance that I am sharing with this person, I also identify with. So, although it is a reading for my client, I do also believe that there's a lot that I am supposed to learn from their guides as well, which is why they came to me rather than any other person on the internet to be able to get this type of support. So,
Mhm.
I'm just really grateful that I can have that experience. And I would say my most profound experience. I mean, they're all so unique. Ooh. Mm. I mean, I would probably say the first time I ever did a reading. I was in Mexico at the time. I was with a friend who had lost his best friend a couple years prior. And I just asked him really confidently, like, would you allow me just to share this space with you? And just, can I just say whatever is on my mind and just let me just, if anything resonates, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no harm, no foul. And the things I was coming up with, I was like, he's throwing Pokemon cards at me, and one of these cards landed. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. And then you guys were at a restaurant and you were talking about your girlfriend, or was this your wife or became your wife? He's like, yeah, I was married. And I was just the confidence that I felt with just like saying everything. And this other girl was with us. She didn't believe any of this spirituality. Completely fine. So I told her, I said, okay, well, can I try? Like, can I just like, since we're already in the space? Yeah, of course. So I was talking and I was like, your aunt wants me to tell you that, she's watching over your brother. And she's like, I don't have a brother. I was like, oh, okay. No, you know what? That doesn't make sense then. And then all of a sudden, this butterfly landed on the table. And I was like, your aunt wanted me to say that if she ever came back, it would be a butterfly. And she, like, her eyes went so big. She's like, no way. And I said to her, I said, are you sure? Because there's a guy standing next to your aunt that looks like your brother, as if like you guys were twins or something. And she said, I had a twin when I was born and my brother died. I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a psychic medium. So I think it's just those experiences that I'm just so humbled that this is something I can tap into. And so I really take it very seriously when it comes to making sure that people feel safe, but that I'm also creating a very grounded and protective space, because energy work is no joke. Energy work is no joke. But yeah, that's probably the most profound experience I've had.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
15 minutes prior, you
Mhm.
quiet your mind and you try to get kind of tapped into the person you're going to be meeting, right? Kind of with their
Yes.
guides. Have you ever come across this happened to me once. So have you
Yeah.
ever come across where you just their guides are saying no? No, you can't. because I had a reading one time, and that is what happened. And someone was going to give me a reading. It was at a
Mm,
specific time, and I felt this happening on my end that
yeah.
I could feel the energy. And then she was telling me I usually tap in about 30 minutes prior, but for you, they said, no, you can't. Not until I
Mm,
got on the Zoom call with her, and then I gave
yeah.
permission. Has that ever happened to you?
It's interesting you say that because I have had two two readings where no one stepped forward. Not a single person, not a single. I felt like I was in like a blank white room, and I was trying, and I was sitting with this client, and I'm like, and I had to step down and say, I'm so sorry, but I don't have anyone that I am connected to right now. And I can't sit here and try to make up, colors and who this person is and, their hair. And I've had to actually I've done about, yeah, couple hundred readings at this point, but I've had two readings where I've had not a single person step forward. And that could be for a wide range of reasons. It could be the client wasn't ready. It could be that the guides didn't feel like that they were connected to me, which I don't take personally. It's their choice as well. But I've had it happen two times in my 3 years where I had nothing come forward.
Mhm.
Mm,
So is
yeah.
it whenever you see these things,
Mm.
whenever you see and you're giving a reading, is it always family members?
No, no. I've had a lot of spirit guides step forward, and spirit guides can come in all forms. For the person that's sitting, it's easier for someone who doesn't do energy work to identify with a person as a spirit guide. So I give them the aura of what the person looks like. But I've had spirit guides who come forward and they are the divine feminine version of my client, or they are divine masculine of my client. They are people who have lived in the physical experience and are acting as a guide for this individual person as a part of their soul tribe. And I've also had people who haven't had physical human experiences and are just here acting as support. So I've had family, I've had friends, but spirit guides, they can come in all different forms, even just energetic beings. Not necessarily anything we understand as humans, but yeah, guides like to present themselves as their aura. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I asked that question because it seems like it ranges differently for people on what
Mm.
they
Oh,
actually see and
mhm.
encounter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have not touched on the
Mm,
intuitive coaching side, the life
yeah.
coaching. What is it that talk a little bit about that and how you help people?
Yeah, of course. So, about a year and a half ago, I started this group called Uncovering Spiritual Gifts. And this has been a community of people that are, like myself, feeling lost, feeling a deep need to understand purpose, who have maybe been misunderstood, um, haven't felt heard or seen. And they come into this space and they just openly share their experiences without judgment. And every single Tuesday at noon, every single Tuesday, we come together and we just talk about the experiences, whether it's with astrology, mediumship, intuition, spirit guides, um, human design. Spirituality is such an umbrella statement. So we talk about a bit of everything.
Mhm.
And then what I've realized is that people wanted more than just a community call. So then I opened up courses, uncovering chakra centers, uncovering intuition, uncovering mediumship, uncovering psychic abilities, uncovering astrology, uncovering human design, and being able to create courses and workshops to teach people all of these different disciplines. And then they can ultimately decide what they resonate with the most.
Mhm.
And then from that, I've also taken the opportunity to do my own courses like those, but focusing more on intuition because mediumship is a lot sometimes. And it's a lot of energy work that I think people feel uncomfortable with sometimes. But intuition is this sense of trust that what you are experiencing is true. And I think a lot of us who have explored energy work and their own individual gifts, we do seek the validation that what we're feeling is true. Sometimes we get it from the outside, but really, intuition is seeking that trust on the inside that what I'm doing has a greater purpose. Some people may not understand it, and that is completely fine. But wanting to be able to tap into that intuitive voice so that way our ego could separate that and just know that what we're doing has a greater purpose. And that voice inside of us does exist for everyone, and just how to lean into that voice. So that's the coaching that I've been offering, is understanding that intuitive voice.
Yeah. So what would you advise people? What's the number one thing that people could do to start tapping into their own inner world?
Yeah. I know everyone says it's so difficult. Meditation. And I'm not talking about the meditation where, you have the that is one way of meditating. That is one way of tapping into your chakras, but meditation in the sense that you are allowing your mind to disappear. You are allowing your feelings to pass by. You are not attaching yourself to anything outside of yourself. The only thing that you have to do is to be in complete trust. Silence, yes, but trust more importantly. Because when you can trust that voice, because our intuition is a very teeny tiny quiet voice. It's that same voice that we hear when we're like, oh, I should have done that, or I should have known, or you did. You did know. You just didn't listen to that voice. You felt like you needed to attach to something outside. So, grounding into meditation is the practice. Once again, it's a practice. It's not something you're good at. I still say that I'm practicing meditation. But if you can go to a state of complete nothingness, make it 1 minute, make it 5 minutes, make it 10 minutes, that's where you can start.
Yeah, I
Mm,
like that. That's what I always tell people too. Just start
mhm.
somewhere because the
Somewhere.
more you practice a daily,
Hmm.
I do it in morning and night, 'cause I
Hmm.
think it's super important to do that.
Yeah.
And meditation can come in many different forms, right? You can sit in a chair and just clear your mind. Like you said, it doesn't have to be this om type practice, although it could be. Um, but yeah, I think that's key. I think it's also important for people to understand that through meditation, you can get to that inner world without any other sort of uh because I have younger people ask me this. The ayahuasca, like that is one way you can do it easier, but it isn't necessary. You don't have to do that. If you can just let go completely of the mind, then you can get to that place with no other aid. So, mhm. And I'm sure you've experienced that as well. Like it's easy. It makes it easier to get there through these ceremonies and things, but if you just practice meditation, you can get there on your own without anything.
Yeah. Yeah, guided visualizations are a great place to start for sure. I know I started with guided visualizations. I always thought meditation, when I took my first yoga class, I thought meditation was just to go through all the things that you have to do that day and like making lists and going through this and go. And I didn't know that you were supposed to just think of nothing. I thought that was like your time of like silent reflection. But when you can, seldom does it happen, when you can really let go of everything, let go of everything, everything, that is where the magic happens. That is where the magic happens.
Yes, it certainly is.
Mm.
Is there anything else that you would like to discuss today? Any other thoughts you have?
Ooh, let's see what else. Hmm. I think one last thing, that for people who are feeling like they are not identified with a community, or they feel that they are in a place of lack, feeling in a place of isolation, feeling in a place of discomfort, dis-ease, um, depression. I think that is one of the most powerful places that you can be, because that is your intuition raising the alarms to say you need to come back to yourself right now, because there is something that needs to be understood through silence. I know we just discussed meditation, but I know in a world of constant stimulation, right? We have our phones, we have computers, we have televisions, we have everything in front of us. We have a lot of distractions, and our brains are only catching up to a lot of this now. This has happened very quickly. And so when a lot of people feel like they are disconnected from the world, that's because it's time for reconnection with yourself.
Oh,
And
I
I think I can resonate with the entire spiritual community, every single member of the spiritual community, everyone who is in energy work, everyone who has decided to take this path of most resistance, because the spiritual journey is not for the weak. They have all experienced a deep sense of pain, discomfort, dis-ease, depression, because they were meant to feel that so they can identify with other people at that same space. So it might just be the reason why you're feeling this isolation is because you do actually need to come back to yourself and recognize that this is your opportunity to be present with yourself without all the distractions outside. So we see depression, and I understand people go through it. I did as well. I did the whole prescription route, antidepressants, anti-anxiety. I get it. Some people choose that option. But for some people who are just really going through it and don't know where to go and don't feel seen, don't feel heard, don't feel understood, it might actually be because you don't understand yourself just yet. And this is a perfect time and perfect opportunity, because you are isolated, because you're putting yourself in a place of discomfort, that you can just ease into that space and allow yourself to feel those things. You don't have to become resistant to them. Just allow yourself to feel them. There
Mhm.
might be something deeper in there. And I think having gone through all of that, having gone through a naturally challenging life, I resonate so deeply with the people who are misunderstood, not heard, not seen. And it's because you are learning yourself again. You are understanding yourself. You are hearing yourself, and you are seeing yourself for the first time as you are, without the effects of the outside world having judgment on that.
Yeah, the 3D world is a big distraction. And I know
Huge,
this
huge.
just from working in the corporate world and
Mhm.
running from 5 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m.,
Yeah.
just checking off the list of things I got to get done, and
Yeah.
then taking a deep dive into just afterward, whenever I started my spiritual journey, just to be present with myself.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
realize, wow, things are much easier when you
Yeah.
just become who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And
It's amazing. It's
I play
amazing
this
when
song now that it's called the magic question. How can it get any better than this? And I love it
mm,
because it's like once you go through understanding this, and then you pop out and you go, wait a minute, how
yeah.
how can it get any better than this? We create our own reality, like with our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. You can create
Yeah.
anything you want to. How does it get
And
any
it's
better than that? Right?
yeah. I mean, when you meet yourself, when you meet your authentic self for the first time without feeling like you need to be anything for anyone else except for yourself, oof, oof, that's nice. That's a nice place to be.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think the
Mm,
studying, like reading something every morning to keep that reminder there. We've got here, let's stay here, let's stay here, let's stay
yes.
here. Because the distractions in the outer world can pull you back if you allow them to. That's why it's important to stay where you are and keep moving forward. So, Mish,
Yes.
how can people contact you if they would like to contact you for your services? What's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on the socials. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have a YouTube as well. I drop some meditations on there once in a while. So it's just my name, Meesh.Cara. And yeah, that is the best way to keep in touch and also just to, yeah, be a part of the community. So I also have a Facebook group, Uncovering Spiritual Gifts. Everyone is welcome. There's events, workshops, masterminds, coaching, of course, as well. But it's just nice to be a part of a community. So, yeah, that's the best way to keep in touch with me.
All right. Well, very good. We appreciate your
Yeah.
time. We appreciate you being on the show today.